Sometimes we have tech issues, but we're live on YouTube. Now we're going to try to go live on Facebook also.
Okay. So can I share it on my Facebook from your?
I already, yes, I already tagged you in it, but then when it's done, we can share it. So people can go live, but it stays on there and people can keep commenting anyways.
Okay.
So we should be live on both YouTube and Facebook. Welcome everybody. I always forget the date because it changes every day.
Yeah.
It's an old joke, but it's true. We are July 6th. She knows.
I hope.
I don't think so.
7th.
7th. All right. We keep guessing. July the 7th. It's 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Welcome to our podcast. I'm Dr. Mike. If you want to look at my credentials, they're on my website, mikevantielen.com. I know that's difficult, so you can also go to mvtonline.com to look at my credentials. The services, the podcasts are all on there. Today we have an interesting podcast because, mostly it's about health, 80-90% of our podcast. I would say this is health too, right? Mental health, spiritual health. It's about performing at maximum potential, being happy in your own skill and those types of things. But we have a very special guest and I'm going to learn a lot today, so I will be doing less of the speaking. But we have Miss Oriana Guevara. Did I say that right?
You did.
Okay, yes. Excellent. And Oriana is a coach. Her website is coachoriana, ORIANA.com. So check it out. I checked it out. It's a great website, easy to navigate. And she's has a master's in human resources,
yes.
Also a business associate's degree.
Business administration master's degree.
Yes. She will correct me. Registered yoga teacher, but most of all, she's a life and personal performance coach, a certified relationship coach, and that's what we're going to talk about mostly today. She's a speaker as myself. She facilitates workshops. She's, as I said, a yoga instructor. She's also the host of the meetup group, Power Couples and Singles of Orlando. Got to check that one out. She's also an activist for human rights, gender equality, environmental protection, and animal welfare. So we have a very active person. How do you, fill your day like this, right? I mean, it seems like you had so much on your plate. It's kind of like me, though. So tell our viewers before we get into this a little bit more about your background, if you like, and how did you get into this personal coaching arena?
Yeah, so I worked in higher education administration for about 13 years, human resources for about 15 years. The last 4 years of my full-time career in an employment setting, I worked with people who were going through major trauma, life transition, life events, particularly in the gender equity realm in college campuses. It has a lot to do with sexual harassment, discrimination, things of that nature. So I worked with people at all levels of the organization, particularly a lot of students, faculty, staff, executives, to support them in, moving through these transitional stages of their life. Yes. And healing from these major life events and traumatic events in life as well. So that was an experience that for me, it created a desire in myself and an awareness that I needed to do some healing around some of these topics as well.
Sure.
And it also inspired me to want to support people in their life transitions and in their healing in a broader way.
Because when you learn something and it helps for you or it works for you, then obviously you want to share it with other people. So that's how you got into coaching. How long have you been doing this life or relationship coaching?
Yeah, so I left my full-time employment in about 2018, summer 2018, to do coaching full-time. But before that, I had started working with a business coach. I started really proactively getting into my own personal development and growth in 2017.
Okay.
I was going through a separation and a divorce. And so I needed, like I said, I had an awareness around some of my own personal and spiritual growth. And I just went all in to doing that and working, really closely with a coach once I realized that my life calling was to support people in their life transitions as well.
It's always good to find that calling and see where you can contribute and help out. How do you combine your life with that relationship coaching and then the business coaching?
Yeah, so I work primarily with people they're either executives, they're entrepreneurs, they're in some phase of their life where, they're in some professional capacity, and they are, at times trying to integrate, their professional life and their personal life, right? Like our lives are meant to be one. You're not meant to be one person in your professional space and another one in your personal space. So supporting people to really integrate and become one authentic person, and live in one authentic identity in every space in which they operate. And that's something that I feel close to.
Yeah. And it seems your emphasis is on relationships.
It is.
How did you get to that?
Yeah. So like I said, I had my own personal journey with relationships. And so one of the things that I realized is that I felt that relationships were really being not emphasized in most people's lives, right? And I had a phase of my life where I did the same thing, right? My emphasis and my focus was so much on doing, growing, chasing, career, chasing achievement, essentially.
Yes.
And so a lot of people I noticed were moving through life in this way where they were focusing very much on achievement and continuously having this feeling of disappointment, right? When you reach the achievement, it's like, oh,
what's next?
Right.
So it's more like focusing on self-development.
Correct.
Versus that relationship.
Right. So what I realized over time was that the people who had the best and most fulfilling relationships were the people who were the most personally and spiritually connected within themselves.
Yes.
Right. So
grounded and aware.
Right.
Grounded and aware.
Right.
Now I also see when I look at your website and look at your accomplishments and things like that it seems you focus more on men. Why is that? We got more problems?
I just feel really personally called and spiritually called to be in support of men. I think that I get the most fulfillment as a coach by working with men. I think it helps men to get a woman's perspective on some of the challenges that they're facing in relationships as they try to not only grow themselves personally, spiritually, professionally, but they also try to grow themselves in relationships with women. So what I can offer them is a unique woman's perspective to where they might be hitting a stumbling block and filling in the gap between what they think that they should be doing in these relationships versus what the
woman would want them to do.
Right, what a woman would want them to do, or what they can do to actually create the fulfillment and joyful relationships that they want. Because a lot of men really do want joyous and caring relationships, loving relationships with women, but they're not sure how to create that for themselves.
That makes sense. Would there be any other reasons why a man would choose a female coach then?
I think most men find value in getting the woman's perspective, and they also find value, particularly the men that I work with, because many of them are entrepreneurs, executives, business owners. They find value in that I have the business experience in addition to the personal performance and coaching experience.
So you understand what they're up to every day against also, is what you're saying.
Yes, exactly. Like one of the challenges that comes up often is the challenge of being a professional and maintaining a relationship with a partner who understands the challenges that they're going through and the time constraints that they're facing as they try to move towards achievement and business building, and also have a life in maybe a family, a loving relationship.
Because an entrepreneur is not 8 to 5.
No, it's not.
24/7.
It is 24/7.
Right? And it's last minute things all the time. And meetings go over time, etc., etc. Now today's topic, because we can keep talking, but the title is Relationships is the New Black, or Are the New Black. Why focusing on relationships is critical in today's world. And we're talking, of course, about the riots, the pandemic, and everything that's going around all around us. So why are relationships during this time especially important?
Yeah, so right now, what I'm seeing is that people are experiencing just a hyper awareness because of the immersion that we're having because of the lockdowns, right? So they're immersed in these settings where they're either with their partners and families much more than they ever have had to be in the past, right? So that constant proximity is causing like what I'm calling proximity overload. Or for people who are single, they're feeling very alone, right? Feelings of loneliness, feelings of depression, being stressed out, feeling like nobody understands. And one of the things that I see in men in particular is that they tend to withdraw, right? Instead of seeking more relationships, seeking their friends, seeking family, seeking even a partner, what they'll do when they feel loneliness and depression is actually pull back in many cases.
And that's more in men. I think it's like the men that don't go to the doctor either, right? They just want to wait and hold on.
Yeah.
They're not as proactive, I guess.
They're not as proactive, but and I see a lot of women who do that too. They have they might withdraw. I'm actually seeing it more in both genders now during this season of the pandemic. But one of the things that concerns me the most in how this is impacting men is that men already have a lot of on their shoulders as it relates to caring for their household, family unit, things of that nature. And all of these added stresses are being placed on men, who is a population that already has increased mental health issues and concerns, right? Like depression, anxiety, things of that nature. And tends to also be a group that doesn't necessarily seek mental health support regularly.
Correct.
So just in general, outside of the pandemic, let's say 2009 and most recent statistics over the last 10 years, men have had higher rates of depression, anxiety, and suicide than any other group of people.
Okay.
Right now, all of those rates are up.
It's probably also because we used to get, raised like that. Boys don't cry, right?
Right. Yes.
I mean, at least the older generations today, that's probably a different story.
Well, I don't know about like children being raised today, although I do still believe that messages like that are placed on our children, unfortunately. But yeah, a lot of men who are, I would say probably at least in the generation X, maybe millennials and up, have received messages at some point in time, whether it was from their own culture and in their own family unit, or just from other men.
Yes.
Where it's not okay to
peer pressure,
right, peer pressure, and just a general feeling or understanding that it's not okay to fully emotionally express yourself because it's unsafe.
I think it is harder for a man in general, right, to do that. Actually, personally, I've been struggling with this pandemic. It's mostly, I think, because it's the unknown. I got so many projects, so many things going on. Do I want to put the effort in this? What if in a few weeks this happens? What if? That's when I started my podcast. I always wanted to. I had nothing better to do. Okay, this is the time. So I think all positive things will come out of it. But luckily, I have a few great friends, and sometimes I do feel lonely. And I reach out to them, and they say, let's do this. So we have a few projects coming up, but I know I need to reach out at certain times to those people because they will be a positive influence to get me out of the house or do something. It's like, let's write another book. And then I'm thinking, yeah, that's great. And then the question is, why write another book, right?
Yeah.
So I struggle with that constantly, for sure.
Yeah, I really like what you mentioned, Mike, about reaching out to your friends and going out to do things that you enjoy. And it sounds like these are really healthy relationships. And to me, what I'm seeing, and you've probably seen this as well, is that this pandemic has caused people to really just kind of either like show up in whatever way was active in their internal world already.
Yes.
Right. Like it's come out. Right. Yes. And so I think that's where people have started to really see, like, quote, who your real friends are, right? And start to get an understanding of like who's actually reaching out to look for you, who is reaching out to you in support and care to check on you, versus who just kind of disappeared off the radar, which is really easy to take personal. But, again, that's where I ask people, like, if you have friends who have disappeared, have you reached out? Have you called them? Are you looking for them? Because
they may be needing the help.
Right. They might need help. They might be in a place where they feel either fearful, anxious, depressed, and they're withdrawing from society, family, friends, right? So this is the place where, like, unity is key, not just in our social structure of the world, which I deeply believe right now that unity is the only answer to moving past the situation that we're going through right now, but also in our personal lives, right? Because our external world is a reflection of our internal world, and everything that is inside of us is being kicked up right now, left and right. Yeah.
No, very well said. And I've shared this with the viewers before. It's amazing how good you make yourself feel if you just reach out and help others.
Yeah.
You know, even if you're depressed, the best medicine is go help somebody else or do something small for somebody or reach out. And it's amazing how it not just helps them, but how it affects you. That's what most people don't understand, I guess, until you start trying to incorporate it in your daily life somehow.
Yeah, that's so true. And so I'll give our viewers an exercise, right? So one of the things that you can do if you're feeling discouraged right now, one of the best antidotes to discouragement is actually encouraging other people. So if you're feeling discouraged right now, grab your phone and send a text message to 5 people and just say something really simple. 5 people, I'm thinking of you. I appreciate your friendship. How are you doing today?
And it will change their day, maybe, right?
Yeah,
Just a simple word.
absolutely. Like just when you start to get those responses back from 5 people saying, hey, this is how I'm doing or where I am, and thank you for reaching out, and I appreciate you too. That is going to encourage you so much and make you feel so much better. So I strongly encourage that. That's an exercise and a practice that I use all the time, and that I encourage my clients to use as well.
Very good. What are some of the common struggles you see then during this time when it comes to relationships?
Yeah, so it's a little bit different for people who are like coupled with a partner under one roof
versus single. So let's do the couple first.
Yeah, so for couples, it's looking a lot like what I mentioned before, right? Like that proximity overload. So all of the stuff within the relationship that you hadn't previously dealt with is showing up right now.
Yes.
Right? All the stuff
you push
that
it to the side, you walked out, you left, you stayed away, but now it's there.
Yes. Anything that you were like, I'm going to deal with that later or never. Now
it's later.
Have no choice, right? Like, so this is, I would like for people, and what I encourage people is to really look at this as an opportunity to look at your relationship and be actively in it with your partner, rather than continuing to avoid, especially anything that you might have avoided in the past, right? If
Now's
you
the time
avoided
to
in the
resolve
past,
it or address it.
Exactly.
Scary though.
If it's here, it obviously never went away by avoiding it, right?
Yes.
So it's back, it's still alive, right? This is an opportunity for you and your partner to really look at whatever that is. So like I said, our outer world is a reflection of our inner world. So and if you're feeling anxious or depressed or fearful or something like that, and let's say, for example, in your relationship, there's our already existing communication issues, right? A struggle with communication, things like that. You might not feel comfortable in expressing to your partner, hey, I'm feeling fearful, or I'm feeling depressed, or I'm feeling anxious because of the uncertainty, right? And if you can't express that to your partner, it actually is going to create feelings of being very alone. Right? Your partner could be right here, 3 feet away from you.
Resentment.
Resentment, right? You feel like you are on an island, right? Even though they're right there, right? So one of the things that I encourage people to do is really work on gaining communication skills, right? Like when you do this or when you say this, it makes me feel this way because it makes me think this thing, right, about us. Having these very simple communications, like really take it back to like a 5th grade communication level, right? Yeah. And just get into a space with your partner where you can really like actively talk about what's going on in your inner world so that together, again, you can present a united front.
Yeah, I think also based on past experience is just in order for that to work, the 2 people need to be on that same team,
absolutely
willing to make that work. Would you say that when you initiate something like this, it may be helpful to have a coach like yourself?
Yeah, it is helpful. If you're in a relationship,
then you have that third party neutral ground versus I'm right, you're right kind of attitude.
Right. Well, both parties need to be in it, right? And the goal has to be growth, not necessarily agreement, you know, or being right? One of the things I always say is like, the moment that you want to be right, you're wrong.
Yes.
Right? Because if I have to be right, then that means I have to make my partner wrong. Yes. Right? And if I have to make them wrong, then we can't be on the same team.
No synergy.
Right. So one of the things I tell people is like, get on the same page about what you want to accomplish in your relationship, right? So there are relationships right now where things are being revealed, particularly maybe what you feel is being revealed is maybe we shouldn't be together anymore, right? And if that's something that you feel is coming to the surface, then absolutely speak with a counselor or a coach, right? And I can support people with that. But even before that, right? Like even before you get to this place where you're like, we can't reconcile our differences, speak to someone, speak to a coach, speak to a
Because
counselor.
it's your opinion that you can't reconcile them, and maybe
Right.
it's easier than you think it is.
Right, absolutely. It usually is easier than you think it is, because for most people, they just don't have the skills.
Yes.
You know, they just need some tools to be able to communicate effectively, to be able to experience more intimacy, to be able to be more emotionally open to connecting. Those are the things that are missing.
It's in all aspects of life. First, you need to acknowledge that you have a problem. Then you need to acquire the skills, and many times you need help there.
Right.
And then it needs to be the willingness, right? And then it forms a new habit.
Right, absolutely. And these are not skills that we often learn when we're growing up.
So in school, right?
We don't learn them in school, right? And for most of us, we didn't learn them in our families either,
No, sure.
right? Unless you grew up with a parent who was in some type of, space where they supported people in relationships because they were in mental health or coaching or something like that. You might not have learned really effective communication skills, or you might not have learned them within the context of an intimate partnership, which is
Or like you
a
said,
little different.
even opening up or sharing your emotions or feelings and balling them up, right? Until it explodes.
Right.
Is it different than for singles?
Yeah, so for singles, what I find often is, especially right now, because of the loneliness and because I think that the pandemic has caused like this, almost like a hyper awareness of the fragility of life.
Yes.
Right? Like that life is fragile, that the world is actually more fragile than we think or ever thought that it was, right? I think people are seeking opportunities to connect, but don't necessarily know how, aren't necessarily doing it for the right reasons, and aren't necessarily ready for what creating a relationship with someone actually entails, right? So you see people that are in this place, or I see them in my coaching practice where they are like, I keep attracting the same toxic relationships over and over again. This is becoming a pattern, and they don't understand why, And one of the things that it's like getting into a relationship before you're emotionally ready and available. It's like inviting somebody to move into your house and saying, welcome, you can't go into these rooms. Right? Don't open these kitchen cupboards and never open that closet. Right?
It's the first thing that's going to be opened. Then.
Right. It's the first thing, because relationships are a mirror, right? And one of the things I deeply believe about relationships is that they're meant to support us in our growth. So, and it's any kind of relationship, not just intimate partnerships, right? Everybody mirrors what we have inside of ourselves. And many times what they're mirroring back at us are the parts of ourselves that we dislike the most.
So that's an easy assessment for you then.
Right. And those are the people that we'll clash with the most, and we'll say, oh, we're not a match. We need to break up. Right. But really what we need to do is look inside of ourselves and see, like, why am I so triggered by this person? Or why am I so triggered by this situation? Right. It's probably because you have rooms inside of your house that you don't want anybody to look into. Right. And you need to clean them up. You need to take care of
them. So what's your advice then, more specifically for those single people that are kind of reaching out for a relationship?
Yeah. So one of the things that I enjoy working with singles on is attracting your soulmate, right? Finding and attracting your soulmate. So how do you do that, right? Actually, I'll give people another exercise.
Yeah,
I like doing exercises.
Some interactions, right? Good. Yes.
Yeah. So make a list, right? So you make a list, and it's going to be the things that you need in a relationship, right? And if you're like, I don't know what I need, that's another conversation, which is good for you to recognize, right? So you need to know, what are my needs in a relationship? What do I want from a partner, right? What do I need? What do I want? What is absolutely non-negotiable? I must have this thing. And what are nice to haves?
Yes.
Right? So you make that list, 4 categories, right? Okay. And then once you make the 4 categories and you have them fully written out, then you really look at your list and say, do I embody these things? Right? Because many times what people will say is, I want a partner that's this way, and they must have this, and I need this, and I need that. But they're not prepared to provide those things to a partner.
themselves.
Themselves, yeah. So they want things from someone, right? They want to attract a partner that's going to give them something that they're not prepared to come forward with and provide.
So that's where the self-development and the self-improvement comes in first then.
Absolutely. So how do you attract your soulmate? How do you attract the man or woman, the partner of your dreams? You become that person first.
You may have to step it up yourself first.
You definitely have to step it up yourself, yeah. Right, and create boundaries and quite honestly, stop accepting less than what you deserve and less than what you want in relationships, right? People will say, oh, I don't want a relationship, but they end up forming relationships anyway that are very like basic surface level relationships or only sexual relationships,
yes.
Right? And so that is a relationship. That's just you accepting less than what you truly want or deserve in a relationship. Mm-hmm. So, let's just get that clear.
Sure.
That like it's still a relationship, even if you said you never didn't want one.
Any exchange or interaction is some type of relationship.
Absolutely.
With what's happening today, of course, the COVID, the lockdowns, we kind of went over it, but how is it impacting people?
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about the social distancing too. I had a conversation with somebody else earlier or a few weeks back, and social distancing is really the wrong term.
Yeah.
It should have been called physical distancing because we have to stay 6 foot apart physically, but we don't want to distance ourselves socially. We want to do the opposite.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So one of the things that I see that this environment has created for us, which is actually, it's very sad for me to see, is isolation and separation, mm-hmm. Right? And as humans, we were never meant to be isolated or separated from one another. We don't thrive in environments where we're isolated and separated. Human beings are tribal creatures, right? We're meant to live in community.
Pack, right?
Yeah. We're meant to live in community, and we're meant to be in spaces and places where we have physical touch, contact with one another, right? Even the idea of eye contact, right? Like mm-hmm. I noticed because of this term social distancing, people are avoiding eye contact.
Yeah.
And eye contact is such a critical way that we connect with one another as human beings, right? And that we form bonds with one another in these ways. So, when we start to interrupt what is natural and primal to the human way of being, mm-hmm. which is essentially, in my belief, the concept of oneness, mm-hmm. that we are all one, that you are me and I am you, right? That all of us we are part of the same ecosystem, matter. Right? We are one collective consciousness. Mm-hmm. We are one energetic being as a whole. Right. And then when we start to chop that up into little pieces because we have different skin complexions, yes. Or because of the pandemic that says that we must, cover our faces and we must separate ourselves from one another. What I see happening is just really detrimental to our mental and emotional well-being. And I think that that's why there are now staggering rates of not just suicides, but and mental health concerns like anxiety and depression, mm-hmm. but also domestic violence, child abuse.
People don't know how to deal with all of it.
Exactly.
So it just
because it's totally out of our nature. So we need to be finding creative ways to, for you to do what you need to do to feel safe, which is different for everybody, right? And there's no judgment there, but do what you need to do to feel safe, while at the same time creating or finding creative ways to create more connection with people, mm-hmm. right? So honestly, one of the things that I see is like people tend to withdraw, but what we need to do is call, right? All of these like video chats and all of that, that's great. Get on the video chat, play the virtual games together, do
especially with the family in other states or other countries which you can't fly to or drive to.
Right. Do fun things together as much as you can. But when you do see people in person, connect, right? Even if it's eye contact. I can't tell you how many people go through life and never receive eye contact. Eye contact is a form of connection and love, mm-hmm. right? So without that, we can't subsist and thrive in life.
Great. Is there a difference between the impact of all of this for non-romantic relationships? Is that different than romantic relationships? Or differences?
Between romantic relationships and
And
platonic relationships?
Or non-romantic?
Yeah, I think people should essentially be doing the same things in both types of relationships, which is seek to connect and seek to find common ground and places and in areas where, again, where we can kind of rejoice, if you will, over our oneness, right? So what do we have in common? What unifies us? What brings us together? What do we both enjoy doing or like talking about? And talk about those things. So if it's like, you both enjoy, or you have a group of people who want to learn about a particular topic, start a book club and talk about that
Create
topic.
a reality, right? I call it the ARC triangle, affinity,
Yes.
reality, communication.
Yes.
If you bring one of those up, the other two go up too.
Right.
If one goes down, you can get it back up by addressing the other two.
Right. And it's such a great opportunity to step into leadership right now, right? Because I feel because there are so many people that are feeling emotionally down, people aren't necessarily being proactive about stepping forward and saying, hey, I would like to start a book club. Who would like to join?
Yes.
Or, hey, let's have virtual brunch on Saturday morning, or let's do whatever it is, right? But just like any kind of community building aspect, when people feel sad and down, sometimes it's really hard to step into leadership and say, I'm going to be proactive about creating community for myself.
That's a good idea, because if you say something like a book club, you already know you have something in common and people respond, right?
Right. Yeah.
So you already create that and, establish new friendships. Where do you feel that men struggle the most with these non-romantic relationships, and is that different than women?
Yeah. So it's been really interesting working with both men and women within the context of romantic relationships. For me, personally, I find it fascinating. What is different are the symptoms. The problem at the core, in my mind, in my observation, is the same. It's low self-worth, not enoughness, poor self-image, and low self-esteem. That's what I see consistently in both men and women. Now, the way that it expresses itself, right? Essentially, the symptoms of the root problem is different in the genders, right? Okay. But at the core, that's what I continue to see over and over again, right? It's a fundamental disassociation with the true self, the authentic self, right? Which is an identity crisis.
So in that case, you actually have to work on both individuals separately before you can work on the relationship. Is that right?
Absolutely, because we're all individuals first, right? I always say in relationships, there's three entities. There's, person one, person two, and the unit, right? Yeah, the us, right? Which is the us is separate. And if either person is doing their self-work and committed to doing the self-work, the unit
be much stronger.
Can be stronger and will benefit, even if only one person is doing it. Because remember I said earlier, relationships are a mirror, right?
Yes.
So when I change, my partner will change in their response to me.
So what can we do then to build that stronger unity?
Yeah, so I always encourage people, look within. The answers are within, which is so funny for me to say that. And I'll tell you why, because when I first started my spiritual awakening and my personal growth journey, the first person that told me, Oriana, the answers are within you, I was like, what? You don't know what you're talking about, And then over time, that could not be a more true statement, right? So I totally understand, if you heard me say that just now and you experienced an incredible amount of resistance, like I get it.
I get it. But it's the ego that's in the way, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, the ego gets in the way, and the ego wants to be heard, and ego creates a victim narrative, right? So ego wants to look outside of itself, right? Outside of yourself for what it needs, right? And it's like, hey, everybody, look at me. Give me love, give me attention, give me acceptance. Why don't you, right? Yeah. And ego creates stories, essentially lies, right? The ego lies. Authentic self tells the truth. Higher self tells the truth, right? So ego says, oh, you don't love me because you don't want to. You don't love me because I'm not enough. You don't accept me because, whatever painful, suffering story it wants to tell, right? And none of those things could be further from the truth. What the reality is that there's nothing outside of ourselves that we can't give to ourselves from within, right? And when we do that, we disconnect ourselves from this place where we need other people to be different than who they are in order for us to feel happy and fulfilled. Okay, so like when we disconnect from needing other people to fill us up, then we don't have to control them, we don't have to manipulate them, we don't have to even be angry at them. We can just be with people and accept them for who they are and just know like they just are who they are and it has nothing to do with you, right? They just are, you know, let them be. And you don't have to be so angry because you tell yourself a story that this person, your mother, your father, your spouse, your child, whomever, could give you something, but is actively choosing not to because they want to hurt you, right? That has to be the most painful narrative that we tell ourselves in any relationship.
Very interesting. And so again, it's the first step is acknowledge that and, you know, be vulnerable, I guess, is drop that ego and then seek help to work on that.
Yeah.
Or you're not going to get anywhere.
And I would say, you know, seek help even before that, right? A lot of people, they will experience some level of stuckness, right? Like they're in a place in their life or even their professional career, in their relationships, something is not right? And for many people, like they've otherwise achieved success in a lot of areas of their life, you know? And so they'll say something like, every area of my life is great, except, you've heard it before.
I say it too.
Yeah, except my health, except my relationship, except my, well, for many people, career might be the only thing that's going well, right, in their perception. And then, you know, and so they've learned to kind of persist in life with, you know, accepting less in this one major piece of the pie of their life, which is, you know, a disservice to yourself. You know, why accept less in any part of your life, right? When the key, the answer, right, that is inside of you, right? And I'll tell you what the answer is, right? If you're like, what is she talking about, right? The answer is personal responsibility, right? The answer is the reality that we all create our own life, and every single choice and decision that we make creates a reality that we live in, right? So if I were to tell a person, you know, and I know that there's people out there that would say, well, I would never create this life. You know, I would never create these circumstances, right? And so hearing something like that is almost like borderline offensive to them, right? Or they're like, oh, she's full of it, right? Like, I get that. And I'm like,
because you've been there.
I've been there, you know? I've been there where I was like, I wouldn't create this life, right? Or I would never have chosen to go through this experience. But the key is really to look at what are the potential lessons. You know, even a negative life experience is not a waste if you can find the lesson in that.
No, I agree. The thing that I'm listening and absorbing all this information. Luckily, we can replay this, right? Or just call her and get the help, so we don't have to figure that out ourselves. But it also explains what you've just been telling is why people always attract the same people or relationships, because it's not those people, it's you.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's why it's never going to change.
Right.
Unless you change yourself.
Absolutely. So people will say something like, for example, common example in the relationship setting is like, I always attract partners that are non-committal, people who are non-committal. I don't know why, because I'm committal, right?
Yeah.
If you always attract a certain thing, right, that thing is active in you.
Yes. Yes.
Sorry to tell you.
Yes.
The thing is active in you. If you attract partners that are non-committal, non-commitment is active in you, even if you think that you want a relationship and that you're willing to commit, right? In what areas of your life are you lacking commitment? Just ask yourself that question. And wherever those areas are, wherever you find the gap, close it. Close the gap, right? Are you lacking commitment in your business? Are you lacking commitment in other relationships? Are you lacking commitment in your finances, right? In your discipline and how you spend money? Because what matters to you is very clear when you look at someone's bank account, right? Where are you lacking discipline and commitment? Close the gaps, because that lack of commitment is showing up in the people that you attract, right? Another thing is like, I always attract people that leave me. Right? If you consistently attract people who leave, abandonment is active in you, or in the very least, a fear of abandonment. Right? So where are you perpetuating this idea in your life that, I'm going to leave first, right? Before they leave me, because
otherwise
I know it's coming. Yeah.
Well, whatever you put in your mind, that's your blueprint also. It's your intentions, your emotions, your feelings, your blueprint. So you're kind of planning it out there the way it's going to happen anyways.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And then we will self-sabotage to create the reality that we believe is already coming and that it's destined.
Self-fulfilled prophecy.
Absolutely.
Especially with everything going on today, whether it's the virus or whether it's the racial thing going on. People look, and I catch myself too sometimes, but people do look for things or research to justify their own opinion or their own partisanship, even though we can find both, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I probably about 10, 15 years had to get myself really aware of, that self-fulfilled prophecy. If you think the world is a bad place, you can find 100 examples why it's a bad place.
100%.
If you think the world is a beautiful place, you can find 100 examples why it's a beautiful place. So the power in here
is incredible
on the outcome of your life or what's going to happen is
right. That's where
it's underestimated.
Absolutely. That's why personal responsibility is the absolute key there. Because if I were to say to you, yes, you are a victim of all your circumstances and all these bad things have happened to you and you have no control, what can you possibly do to change your life at that point, right? You would just leave my office and be like, that was a waste.
Yeah. Well, that's being a reactive person or proactive person.
Right. Where if I say you are personally responsible for all of your decisions, all of your choices, you create your reality. And if you don't like the reality you created, guess what? You can create a new one.
Yeah.
How exciting is that?
That's right.
Fully empowering, fully like in a place where now the only question is how.
Yeah.
Just show me how to do that, right? And we work on that.
What I'm getting here too today is that in my case, after a relationship, that's when I start thinking and looking back and admitting to myself, I could have done that better, or next time I'll do this, or I don't want that anymore.
Yeah.
That's going to be on my list or whatever, right? But that's afterwards. What I'm getting from you here is maybe you should do that before you get into a relationship and kind of get ready for a relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say do that before with everything in your life, right? Like I call it lifestyle design. So plan out and think about, make the same list of needs, wants, non-negotiables, and nice to haves for everything, for finances. Like the city you want to live in, the career or the job you want to have, the company you want to work for, the romantic partner that you want to have, the friendships that you want to have, right? The relationships that you're already in that may be turbulent, but you're not willing to end, right? Like some people have turbulent relationships with family members.
Sure.
They feel like I'm not willing to walk away from my family or these relationships, right? What can you do to make those relationships better, right? Like start making those lists, become those things, right? Become the talent, the professional that company wants to hire.
Yes.
Right? Become the person that your soulmate would want to be in a relationship with, right? Become those things yourself, and then you can call that in, and you'll actually be surprised. It's
the resources come to you, right?
The resources come to you.
It's kind of like the secret type of thing in one way.
You don't even have to chase the love anymore. Like that person just shows up because now you're on a completely different plane.
Frequency.
Right? You up level, right? Some people call that a frequency, right? Your vibration has changed. And so you don't have to chase the career, the partner, the friends anymore, right? Those people start to show up once you start vibrating at a higher level and get more connected with your true identity and your higher self, right?
So the fake it till you make it is not applying.
No,
no. I'm just bringing that up because people say if you wanna be. I mean, I think in some way it is, because if you want to be the boss of the company you work for, they say fake it till you make it, meaning dress as the boss.
Right.
And maybe that's not a bad thing, because if you dress as the boss, it's in here, you're already the boss.
Right.
And this is the power, not necessarily the suit. Right?
And I think that's where the expression has been misunderstood, right? Because the fake it is like believe it. It really should be believe it till you make it.
Yes,
right?
but you gotta back it up with what's inside of it,
Absolutely.
eventually, at least.
At some point in time, right?
At some point.
You're gonna get tested.
Yes, at some point in time. Or you will be fired a week being the boss, right? That could happen too.
Right.
So why would it be a great time for people now to invest in themselves, or at least, or maybe even in a coach like yourself?
Yeah. So I always say, like, getting a coach is an investment in yourself. Like, yes, obviously it's a service that you would pay for, but it's really an investment in yourself. If you are in any place in your life where you want improvement in some aspect of your life, and you're not sure how to go about creating it, that is a clear sign that you would benefit from working with a coach, right? Because a coach, right, a coach is a person who essentially has been through the experiences that you are either facing or you will face in the near future if you continue to do your work, and has been able to successfully resolve that thing in their own personal life.
So you have the whole toolbox of skills that the person may need.
Exactly. And it's a person who not only has been able to overcome those challenges and barriers in their life, but they've done it from a mindful place where they've actually hung on to those awarenesses, to the lessons, to the tools that supported them to get through. So if you can work with somebody that would give you all the tools and just say, hey, here, so you don't burn yourself the way I did or the way I see other people burning themselves, here are the tools, right? Here's the map, follow this map, right? Isn't that so much easier? And you can save yourself so much time, so much pain.
That's the key word to me, what you said, time. You maybe be able to figure it out yourself, and probably never. That's why you keep attracting the same things. So if you want to me, it seems like if you want to stop this vicious cycle, that's what you need a coach for, to identify where to work out and then giving you the skills to stop that cycle. So that's only investment in yourself, and it's going to have an ROI of multiples of millions that way, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you think about it, if, let's say that you invest, let's say even $2,000 that you invest in working with a coach for 6 months, if that saves you, 2 or 3 years in the time that it takes you to attract your soulmate, to get into the career that you want, or to explode your business and start making the kind of money that you really always dreamed of and want to make, isn't that worth it?
No, of course.
Yeah.
It always is.
Right.
What types of people do well with making those meaningful improvements with working with a coach?
Yeah, so it's people who are willing to look at your stuff.
Willing.
You have to be willing, right? Like as a coach, I can't force a person to do the reflection and to become want to look at the things in their life that are not progressing to where they want to be.
So before they call you, they got to be open to change and also kind of realizing that it may be all me, and I'm going to have to drop that ego and just let go for me to improve.
Yeah, so that's my second point is willing to look, right? Willing to take personal responsibility, right? Like you said, you have to be take ownership, right? Of that stuff. Like, okay, this is the life I created. I created a life experience that I don't prefer. Okay, that's it. Everybody does it. It's called conditioning.
And don't live in the past, just start working on the future.
Right. And the thing is, we're here now. This is where you are today. You can't change it by lamenting the past. So just be where you are now and take full ownership and full responsibility. Okay, I created a life experience that you want. In most cases, we do that because we grow up disconnected from the self, and we are conditioned and indoctrinated in a certain way that does that. Okay. Sure. And then the third thing is be willing to do the work, right? Be willing to do the work. So I have had clients that they do the reflection.
Here's the tools, and then the tools go right there, right?
I give them all the tools, right? Because I can't do it for you, but I give them the tools, and then they still stay in a place where they're not ready to actually use them and engage in the tools, in the work, in changing their habits, in confronting.
Do you give them homework?
I do give homework.
Right.
Yes.
So then you know if the homework's done or not, anyways. The next time they come visit you somewhere.
Well, and the thing is, everybody's in a different place on their journey, right? So some people are more ready than others, and when I work with my clients, I really try to be sensitive to the fact that people are in a different place. Some people come in and they're very ready, very eager, hungry, essentially.
I want this done now.
Yes, and I'll do anything to create change in my life, right? And then other people are like, yeah, I guess I'll try this. I think this might be helpful, right? And they're still in a place, right? But what I try to do with them is I start moving them towards getting some small wins, right? Once they start picking up momentum.
So they see some positive impact.
Yeah, they start to pick up momentum, and then they get more encouraged, and they want to be more proactive at that point.
Because you're talking about entrepreneurs, so we already know that their schedule is busy, 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 and now they gotta make time for themselves and schedule another thing. So I think that scheduling that time is going to be important to really implement this.
Scheduling the time really is important, and I'll tell you, especially as an entrepreneur, though, especially in today's day and age, you must to get through this time period, right? We must 10x our self-care.
Yeah.
You must be doing the mindset work. You must be doing the emotional development work, the spiritual work. You must change your habits if you're gonna get to the other side of this and still be in a positive place in your business and in your relationships and in all aspects of your life. Like if that's what you want, you must 10x your self-care now. Do not delay any longer.
On all aspects, mental, emotional, your health, exercise.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, to me, it's a devastating time too. I struggle with it, but we got to look at it. Okay, this is kind of a pause that we have, and we got to take advantage of it to come out stronger on the other side. You know, I always know, and my close friends that are listening, they know, like, damn, I always say, I need to get more into meditation. I got to start with guided meditation. I need to do this, I need to do this. And I want to, but I never do. Right? So that's where I am now. I'm really getting actively more involved with the things that I know I need to do. When it comes to a health point of view, yes, I'm the one who talks about supplements and healthy diet and exercise. So yes, I'm implementing that. Got to step it up another notch too. I got to get into the biohacking and stuff now, because that's the next level. Things always keep evolving. But it's always been, yes, and maybe it's especially for a man, that mental, emotional aspect. I've acknowledged that for years. I know the people that have the skills, that share their stories with me. But now my next step is I gotta implement now.
Yeah. Most men are just so like in their mode of doing that they neglect being.
Yes.
Right. So people will ask me, like, what is the difference between self-love and self-care? Self-love is being. Self-care is doing. Right. And what you do to cultivate self-love is what self-care actually is, right? So there's direct correlations between people who cultivate self-love, who do the work to actually take care of themselves. They can be more present in their relationships, and they actually have happier, more fulfilling, more caring relationships. Yeah, they're living, they're healthy, they're emotionally well, they're physically well, they're taking care of themselves. And if we don't take care of ourselves, we're no good to our family members and our friends, right?
No, that's true. It's the goose and the golden eggs right there, right?
Absolutely.
No, I think it's difficult for somebody that always kind of works today, but it's always tomorrow I'll have this, next year I'll do this, and we're always working in the future without living in the present.
Yeah.
And it's a difficult thing to get away from.
It is very difficult to get away from, and it's a self-deception trap, right? Because we're always in this chase for more. And like I mentioned earlier, it's a very unfulfilling place to live life, right?
But it's okay, and that's a question. It's okay to be in that chase, but then at the same time, you need to enjoy life and be self-aware.
Absolutely, and be present, stay present. Like, know what the goals are, create goals, of course. Work towards your goals, right? One thing I say is, like, when I do lifestyle design with people, right, we're creating a vision for the future, a vision for the life that they want to live, and everything that they want to be in that future life, right? And then we close the gap between where you are today and where you want to be, right? That's your goal. Those are the phases and steps towards moving into the life that you want to live as your higher self and in your true identity, right? So as we make progress in that, knowing, like, it's a journey. Because even when you get to the place where you're like, this is the life I always wanted, you're going to want to evolve that life too.
Oh, sure, because now you're at a different place.
Well, and because we're always seeking.
Yeah.
Our life, we're always seeking, our spirit wants growth and development all of the time. So know that, like, wherever you are is okay. Wherever you are, that's your journey. Support people who want to grow personally and spiritually, professionally, by be with them where they are, right? And accept where they are, that's where they are, right? You can't be somewhere else besides where you are, So, like, when I meet people, if I can just be present with them and help them in formulating their future vision for whatever they want that future to look like, and then help them take steps towards it. Like once you're on the journey, you're on it. You can't unsee what you've seen. You can't undo what you've done, like you're awakening. And that is the most exciting thing. There's no destination. Some people get frustrated and they're like, why am I not there yet?
Sure.
When am I going to be there?
But that's when you live in the future,
That's
like
when
I
you live
did
in
for
the
a long
future.
time. You live in the future instead of the present.
Right.
And
Always
that's a
waiting.
very frustrating thing.
It is. Yeah. Always
And
waiting
most
for the
people
next
never
thing.
get there, so that's why you die with regrets. You never get there.
Yeah. Sadly.
Yes.
Right?
Huh. Interesting. Sadly, for sure.
And it's not a way to live, right?
No.
Like living in the future, that's not living. It's not life, right? Like,
it's not there.
right, exactly. It doesn't exist. So we want to really, when we're talking about this being on this path, this spiritual journey, right? And what that really means, what it means is being alive. How do you be alive?
Yeah.
Right? You be alive by being present here today in this moment, not with regrets about the past and who did what, who said what, who wronged you. You're not living if that's where you're at. And if you're in the future, I always say depression is pain and sadness about the past.
Yes.
Anxiety is fear of the future and uncertainty about the future, right?
Makes
So
sense.
if you're there, anywhere outside of the vision that you created for the future, right? And you can actually create more certainty for yourself by creating a life vision and starting to move towards it and creating a plan for that. But if you're worried about the future and consistently always like chasing the next thing,
you're creating it.
You're not alive.
You gotta change it today.
Yeah.
Yes. Huh. Are there any type of people then don't really should pick up the phone and call you because they're not going to get anywhere with a coach like yourself?
Yeah. So, mostly it's the people that I see who don't necessarily make progress are the people who are just they're more committed to their resistance and to staying where they are than they are to creating change in their life. And one of the things I say is like when you, and this is part of my life experience too, in my journey, when the pain of staying within the status quo, of staying the same, when that pain becomes greater than your fear of the unknown, you will change.
Yes.
You will have to do something. Like you will not be able to stay inactive in that moment because the pain of being where you are becomes so great, it's intolerable at that point. So I'm not saying that you necessarily have to get there, right? Because it's a very painful place to be. And I know it from experience, right? But what I'm saying is like, if you are in anywhere in your life where you are willing to just tolerate, or within your belief system, you're entrenched in the belief that this is just the way things are and they're not going to change and you have no control, you're probably right.
Yeah, it's a self-fulfilled prophecy, right?
Right. That's, there's absolute truths and then there's relative truths. And the relative truth for you is that you're stuck and there's no other way. And you will continue to perpetuate that in your life, sadly.
So that's how you make your self-assessment, is asking yourself these questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
For the listeners, and
For the listeners.
I'm listening
Yes.
too.
Yeah. Are you ready? Are you ready, right? If you think in any way to yourself that you might be willing to look at your belief systems, and challenge them, if you're willing to do that in any way, you're ready to work with a coach. You're ready. And I'm not saying that it's not going to be uncomfortable. That's not what I'm saying, right? Like personal growth and any kind of growth, right?
Sure.
I mean, even when our bodies are growing, it's uncomfortable, right? Growth is uncomfortable. But if you can tolerate the discomfort and move through the resistance, right? Be afraid, but do it anyway. Knowing that on the other side of that is your greater good, is your higher self, and that your higher self is already there waiting for you, calling you in. Knowing what's there, if you can move towards that, and if you're even like 10% ready to do that, work with a coach.
No, what about this? If you ask yourself this question, am I happy? And the answer is no.
Yeah.
Is that a simple question? But maybe that's a good question.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people.
Happy is, of course, very broad term, but still.
It is very broad, and I think people they have a comparison between happy and content.
Yeah,
right?
That's a big difference,
Or
right?
like tolerable and acceptable, I mean, if you're tolerating
Or I
anything,
can't stand this.
right? Yeah, if
I'm
there's-
okay for now.
I'm okay for now, right? That's like coded language for
Yes.
like, I don't
No.
like the situation I'm in,
Yes.
or I'm unhappy in this situation.
And that's being stuck, because if you could do something about it, or you knew how to, you would leave, or you would get out of that
You would do
situation.
it. Yeah. I mean, so am I happy in this situation? You know, if you can answer that question really honestly with yourself, yeah, go ahead and ask. I would say if you even have to ask the question, you're probably not happy with that situation. Right, that's probably an indicator that
Now,
you're
let's
not.
say I answer yes, I'm happy. Would there still be a benefit for a coach? Because I'm thinking now growth, and there's no limit to that, right?
Yeah, no, there's no limit to growth. And so there's people that are already in a place where they're performing pretty highly in different aspects of their life. And what they're looking for is like an up level and like a 10x to their life, right?
Yeah.
Some aspect, or like life as a whole, right? The whole life pie. So for that person that just knows like they're on an accelerated track, they've been doing the work, maybe they've already been in some personal development, they might have already worked with other coaches. I mean, I've had many coaches myself.
Mhm.
I mean, a coach who's never had other coaches or has never done their own work, that's somebody to be careful with, right?
And they just went to a weekend seminar, which is not the same.
Don't work with that person. So, you know, work with a coach who's worked with coaches, who's worked with, you know, mental health professionals, who's done their work.
And it's a product of the product.
And is a product, right? And is willing to share their journey. I would say, on top of the fact that they've done their work and they're open about doing their work, they're open about the journey and the challenges associated with doing the work, right? With their clients. And so for those people who are in that place where they're ready to up level, heck yeah, find the coach that's right for you and get at it.
Now, you're in Orlando.
Yeah.
Now, if somebody wants a coach, is this something that can mostly be done virtually these days? Because we're talking about talking anyways.
Yeah. So I work with clients mostly virtually, entirely virtually since the pandemic. But
Sure.
it was, you know, I work with people. We meet over Zoom. We have essentially like virtual face-to-face conversations.
So it could be anybody around the world.
They can be
Could become
anywhere
a client.
around the world, nationwide. I've worked with clients who were in places as far as Hawaii, you know, other people out of state, and it's something that can be worked through, right?
If you're local, would it be beneficial to at least the first time come in person? Are there benefits to that?
I always encourage people to just contact me and talk to me, right? Like, I really believe in the power of like vibrational attraction, right?
Sure.
So if a person is attracted to me as a coach, then we're probably a good match, right? If they even felt compelled to contact me in the first place, there's probably something there that creates some type of vibrational match. And if they're not, right, if they're repelled from my message, then I'm probably not for you, and that's fine. There's no right
Maybe
or wrong.
another coach with the same skills that has a better match.
Right. That doesn't mean don't work with a coach. That just means maybe I'm not the person for you, and I don't take that personal because it has nothing to do with me, right? So I love working with people, with clients who are a match for me. And if and when I do meet with people for a consultation, because I do offer complimentary consultations. So if and when I do meet with people and I feel that it's not a match, I will happily let them know that I don't feel like we're a match, and I will give them a referral.
Waste your time and their time.
Yeah. If it's for some people, they'll come in and they might feel
you
like,
don't want them to drain your energy, right?
Absolutely. Right. No.
Right. I mean,
and I want them to get the best possible outcomes. And I know for a person to get the best possible outcomes, it's not about me. It can never be about me. In the coaching relationship, it's never about the coach. It's always about that person. So if I can direct them in toward either another coach or even a mental health professional, because for some people, what they actually need is a mental health professional, not a coach. They're not there yet on their journey. I'm happy to do that, and I give them a referral, and I'm totally honest with them.
If somebody has a consultation with you, from that first consultation, can you kind of give them an idea how long it would take and what it would cost based on your assessment, or does it take a few sessions to even really get a good grasp on what they need? I don't know.
Yeah. So when I meet with people in consultation, I'm really seeking to create depth, right? By that point in time, I've already had them complete an assessment, a short assessment where I can get a better understanding of like what they're looking for and their readiness to create change in their life. So when we meet, whether that's in person or virtual, then I already have an understanding of where they are. And then from there, we can create more depth. When I work with people one-on-one, a 3 to 6 month engagement is usually customary and is the most, gets people the greatest results in the fastest way. Yeah, but I have clients that have been with me for several months, even longer than 6 months. And these are clients who are continuing to make progress through their journey. They're in a different place today than they were when they first came in.
I think when that happens, then why would you want to stop if you know you can keep improving?
Right. And if there's a rapport there, and you see that you're making progress with a coach, then yeah, absolutely. If the relationship is still mutually beneficial, then by all means, keep going.
I think it's great.
Engagement.
Again, I think this is important because a lot of us, and I was one of them for sure, it's like we're in this physical world. Yes, we talk about health, we talk about nutrition, we talk about, we gotta go to the gym, I gotta exercise. But most of us forget that mental aspect. And not only mental aspect, is that emotional aspect. Are we happy? How is our relationship? Not just your romantic relationship, but any relationship. And so there's coaches for that too. There's not just a gym trainer. There's not just your health coach. There is this, personal development coach, relationship coaches. They're probably all over too.
Yeah.
But just like anything else, there's good doctors, bad doctors, good plumbers, bad plumbers. You got to do a little bit of research in who you're looking at. And from what I learned is, somebody who's a product of the product, went through it themselves, applied techniques and skills to themselves, and actually overcome their issues and experience growth to another level, and then has the experience of helping many other people successfully. I think that's in any profession what you really want to look for versus here's my license or here's my certificate.
Right. The practical experience is key as well.
Sure. Is there anything else before we share your contact information, etc.? Anything else that you want to say to our listeners or viewers?
Yeah. Oh goodness. So much.
Maybe you gotta come back another time, right?
Yes, I hope so.
But like a message or
a message. Gosh, what I would say
anything.
is, right now is a very, it's a challenging time, right? And the world feels unsafe and insecure. And that can be a place where when we start to create a vibrational match with unsafe and insecure, it's very easy to bring that into our personal life and our relationships and even into our businesses, right? So just be very careful with what it is that you are connecting yourself to right now. Protect your energy like it's your money in your bank account, right? Like just protect your energy, protect yourself, and separate yourself from people and from things like the news media that is sucking your energy and sucking your life away.
Drama,
yeah.
Everything else.
Get yourself out of a place of fear, right? That when we're vibrating with fear and with uncertainty, we will bring that into our relationships and create that in our homes.
In all aspects of life.
In every aspect of our life, right? So if you find yourself in that space, I would love to talk to you. But one of the first things that you can do is really start asking yourself, how can I create more peace and harmony in my life, right? Get on a low media diet. That's what I call it, right?
Low media diet.
Turn off the TV, right? To get into a place where you are experiencing fun again, right? Start doing fun things with your family or your friends. Get out into nature, get grounded, right, in the earth. Really start to get into a place where you can get centered and express your emotion, right? If you have fear or insecurity, uncertainty inside, maybe one of the things that would be helpful for you is just to emotionally express that, whether that's crying or screaming into a pillow,
sharing
or talking to someone, right? Whatever it is that you need to do, but get that energy out of yourself. Yeah.
Great advice, right? Yeah. All right. So, your website is Coach Oriana.
Yeah, you can go to coachoriana.com, and that should direct you to orianaguevara.com, which is my new site. And you can get a direct link. There's two things I want to share.
Sure, go
ahead. I have a new book that I'm going to be launching a pre-order campaign effective August 1st.
Okay.
My book is called The Brave New Masculine, Liberating Men to Heal, Restore, and Strengthen Their Relationships with Women. So it's a book that is for men to support them to create more fulfilling relationships with women, but it's also for women who want to be able to provide greater support to the men in their lives.
Knowing their partner.
Knowing their partner better and knowing how to be a more supportive partner, which is something so critical in a fulfilled man's life experience with a partner, is that he has a supportive partner. It is so critically important. So the Brave New Masculine pre-order is available August 1st. I'm super excited. It's my first
So she's
book.
going to get me the link and I'll post it on my Facebook page.
Thank you.
For sure.
I appreciate
I
that.
certainly can use that information in that
thank
book,
you.
I know.
Yes. So if you want more information, if you want to get on the mailing list to know when the book becomes available, and also visit my website, text the word BRAVE, B-R-A-V-E, BRAVE to 55444.
Brave to 555
55444.
55444.
Yeah.
2 5s, 3 4s.
Correct. Yes. Yes. Text BRAVE to 55444. You will be on the list so that you can get notified of when my book becomes available on pre-order. I would appreciate and love your support. I would love to work with you. And you'll also get a link that will take you directly to my website so you can learn more.
Excellent. So many ways to contact Coach Oriana. I certainly want some help in this area. Hopefully you guys learned a lot today. And again, don't contact me, contact Coach Oriana if you want to know more. As always, choose health freedom.